Hello everyone. Today I will be featuring the tier 9 Italian cruiser Brindisi, and I'm doing this right after I did my Venezia vid and uploaded it and posted, and then I found out that I actually uploaded the wrong score screen. I had them in the same folder and I wasn't paying attention when I was editing, so I just dragged and dropped the Iowa score screen instead of the Venezia score screen. Oh god, I'm sorry about this. Is actually the first time I made that mistake. I'm kind of surprised. I've been doing YouTube for I don't know how many years and posting World of Warships games for I don't know how many years, and this is the first time I've ever managed to post the wrong scoreboard. I don't even know how I pulled it off, but I'm just gonna blame being tired, honestly. I did it after doing my long stream, and then I decided this is a brilliant time for a commentary, and obviously it backfired. The Brindisi though, the Brindisi, tier 9 Italian cruiser. Pretty tanky in terms of health, 44.8k. You have more health than the likes of Donskoy. You have more, well actually, you don't have that much more. You have slightly more than the Seattle. In fact, looking at the health pools now, you beat the St. Louis, you beat the you beat the Ibuki. But then when we start talking about the really tanky ones, there's so many tier 9 super cruisers out there, which obviously makes the comparison a bit skewed. Compared to the tech tree ships, you're pretty healthy. Compared to all the premium stuff or the super cruisers or whatever, you're kind of squishy. Armor-wise, you're pretty squishy as well. You got this small armor belt that's 50mm that extends all the way to your bow, but don't try to tank with this one. It's nowhere near as high as Venezia's 40mm belt. It's actually basically waterline, and you can easily get pinned above it through your 25mm nose straight into your citadel. The upper belt is 30mm, the deck is 30mm, parts of the upper deck is actually 25 as well. So you get a fair bit of squishiness. That 50mm belt does extend once again towards the stern, but there are a fair bit of weaknesses. You shouldn't count on it because it is so waterline that you're more likely to be pinned above it than to actually tank anything with it. In terms of speed, the Brindisi, just like, Brindisi. I had Italian people in chat get mad at me for saying I should call it Brindisi. I'll try to remember that. I'll probably mess it up in a couple of minutes. Anyways, the ship is fast. It is stupid fast. It does, with the speed flag, it does 38.5 knots, which makes it faster even than the Donskoy. The only one that beats it is once again the French cruisers with the speed boost. St. Louis one breaks 40 knots, which is in a class of its own. Rudder shift wise though, 10.8 seconds, which isn't that bad, and considering it has a 730-meter turning circle, this thing is actually pretty damn agile. It's fast, it's pretty nimble, and honestly, it feels pretty comfortable to sail. The issues are, of course, the firing angles, and considering the thing has a gigantic citadel, and unlike the Venezia, this thing does not have layered armor. So you have none of that juicy black hole armor that can troll people. That's not gonna happen with the Brindisi. It just eats full-on citadels from any pens that hits its broadside. Using my crawling smoke, once again the Italian gimmick, so to say, to push into this cap and try to get this objective for us. My team is pushing in at the same time though, and they're gonna get reset so many times that I won't be able to cap it. Amusingly, if I went in here solo without anyone being reset, I could probably get this objective, but I have to wait for the Zao. The reason I waited that long before I shot the Zao is because the Brindisi has a smoke firing penalty of 9.7 kilometers, so I couldn't shoot until then, or I would have actually gotten detected. It has a range of 17.1 kilometers, which, if you remember correctly, that's the same thing that the Venezia has. Basically, the guns are Venezia's guns with one less turret, and but your sap is actually a bit worse. You don't have those improved angles of the Venezia, so your sap is slightly worse. Your H alpha is once again absolutely god tier because of that sap. Your AP is okayish, no improved angles. The penetration is okayish. You're below Buffalo basically. Buffalo's has pretty okay penetration, so it's not a bad penetration. It's not really competitive for tier 10, but tier 9 it does pretty damn well. The reload is, however, the same, incredibly sluggish, 20 seconds, and with the reload mod that I'm running, it's 17.6. The difference is my super Sansonetti captain is on Venezia, so Brindisi is stuck with having a normal captain, which means switching ammo, even with the expert loader, takes a really long time and can be pretty frustrating. I'm also running a slightly different build here. If you go and check my Venezia build, I'm running the alternative build I mentioned, which is I'm running Vigilance and Preventive Maintenance instead of RPF for the last 4 points. Concealment wise, this thing has 12.2, which is, once again, very similar to Venezia's, which is 12.4. So this has better stealth, it's more agile, but it has one less gun. And significantly less armor, and of course significantly less health pool. I found it to be a pretty okay ship. It's not nearly as good as Venezia is for its tier. Brindisi isn't nearly as good. It just struggles. It had mostly the issues with the lack of armor, and having lesser guns, the DPM does end up being pretty underwhelming. In fact, it loses, like in terms of AP DPM, it loses to the likes of Ibuki. In terms of HE DPM, I mean, it's got SAP, so it's a bit misleading. The SAP DPM could be good, but you gotta take into account that you're gonna be bouncing a whole lot of shells, you're not gonna be starting fires, so there's a whole lot of downsides to playing the ship. I'm gonna be focusing more on my tactics, because in terms of stats, kind of similar to the Venezia, with the exceptions that I mentioned. But I'm gonna be focusing more on the actual gameplay here. In this case, whenever you want to play around your smoke cooldown whenever it's available. The thing with these Italian cruisers is whenever you got that crawling smoke available, you can play fairly aggressive. Because you got this oh no, you got this oh shit button, I can smoke up, I can run away if need be. As long as there's no DD within range, you obviously you gotta keep that in mind. Or you can use it as a defensive tool, or you can use it as an offensive tool. In this case, this game is, well, it's turning pretty bad. My team kind of lemming trained to the C cap. They've given up entirely on A. B has been lost. They're trying to push into B, but they've got a Smolensk in the spawn that's harassing them, trying to load some AP, see if I can maybe punish him. But at these ranges, all he needs to do is angle out a bit, and we're not going to have any luck with the AP. Well, not as good as Wooly as I hoped. He did angle out a bit. No bounces, surprisingly, just didn't get the hits that I needed. But this is going to be a rough game, because they got a tier 10 carrier, they got a cap advantage, my Sean Bart is burning to death in front of me, my Missouri is pushing into the cap as well, trying to contest it, but he's going to be the next target. So I'm going to go see if I can go help, because we need to get the points up. We're down 300 points to 500, and as soon as the carrier spots me, you see the amount of focus fire, 4 ships already targeting me. The Brindisi has the same issue with like all the Italians, that is the AA guns are, the range is trash. You can't support your teammates with AA at all, because having 4.6 km AA is just so incredibly useless. So I'm having issues keeping my Missouri alive, or helping my Missouri in any way. I crawl into the camp, and starting to see just how many people are targeting me. I'm hoping to secure this cap. I wouldn't want to use my smoke, but at this point this is just gonna end up being too much spam, unless I can get some big hits in on the Friesland. Note that SAP, of course, incredibly powerful against DDs, as I showed in the Venezia commentary. I only land 1 hit, I decide I want to turn out, so we're popping our smoke. I know where the DD is, so I know it's safe to use the smoke. There's no risk of the DD being so close that I smoke up and start shooting, I get spotted. So that's an important thing to keep in mind every time before you use this crawling smoke. How many DDs do they have? Where are they? Are they within range? And then the other thing, of course, is there a radar within range? Turning in, trying to once again help my Missouri, cutting off lines of vision with smoke, trying to help him as much as I can. At this range, the AA is doing something, but it's pretty short-lived, and the Missouri actually goes down to the Venezia. Montana spotted. Once again, this thing also has those 13.5 kilometer torps, 4 of them, so I dropped them preemptively on the Montana, provided he sails in a straight line. Considering that he's going to go between the islands, there's a fairly good chance that he might do that. I managed to secure the cap using the smoke, and now it's time to run. You have much squishier armor than the Venezia, as I mentioned earlier, so something like a Montana and a Musashi is in fact really scary, and not something you want to stay and fight. So I'm just gonna straight up disengage from here. I managed to get 1 kill back on that Musashi, but we're still down 370 to 570 points, and we're down a ship. More importantly, we're also down a DD, and they have a Friesland, and as anyone who has played that ship or seen it in action knows, our carrier will struggle to finish that thing. My torpedoes turn out to be really good. I catch his bow and stern, that's a double flooding, and he doesn't have a damage con, so if he hadn't been finished off by that Yoshino torpedo, he would have died from the flooding from those torpedoes. So that's once again equalized it a bit more, but in the meantime we lost another ship again. So we're down to a 6 versus 7. They still have the DD advantage, but in securing B with that smoke, I do manage to gain us points ticking in our favor, which not only buys us time, but also gives us a victory condition. Can we outlast long enough, and can we defend these objectives long enough? I'm looking at my Hindenburg and their spawn suiciding in. Not very good. On the other hand, this Zhao seems to have overcommitted, rushing down our Yamato. He's angling towards the Yoshino, so I'm gonna close the distance and see if I can use some sap on him. With this kind of angle, sap is of course, and especially against cruisers, sap is really effective because they don't really have that much heavy armor that can shatter the sap. So you end up doing usually pretty consistent high damage volleys. He turns in, but at this range the plunging fire gives the sap enough of an angle that we get 4 hits and 4 bounces. The carrier finishes him off, but in the meantime we lost that Hindenburg down in the enemy spawn. And now we're down to 4 versus 6. This is absolutely an uphill battle, especially considering many of the enemy ships are tier 10s, Audacious, Smolensk, Venezia. These are not easy ships to fight. My Smolensk is trying to survive inside B, trying to defend it, but the Audacious will be harassing him. On the other hand, he might actually be able to burn down the Musashi. Looks like he will, but the enemy Brindisi is pushing in. I mentioned this thing has a huge citadel, and it doesn't have any of that Venezia trolley-spaced armor. So I'm already switching expert loading to AP. You saw how long it took to expert loader to AP, even with that perk. I see Smolensk drop torps as I expected him to, so I know this guy will be turning in to dodge those torpedoes, and we're holding fire. You have to show some patience here. He smokes up, but he just shot, so his smoke firing penalty keeps him spotted, and I patiently wait for him to go for the dodge, and once he goes for the dodge, we punish him with the AP. 3 versus 4. They still have a carrier harassing though, and I'm in a bit of an awkward position. I still have 1 smoke left, so if need be, I could potentially disengage. What I'm trying to do now is make sure the Friesland doesn't get the idea of pushing into B. I need to zone the Friesland out from B. I can't allow him to take it. The Brindisi, just like the Venezia, doesn't have any hydro and it doesn't have any radar. So of course you struggle to deal with DDs, but on the bright side, the Friesland is a DD without torpedoes. So I can technically just rush him down. I push closer. I have an RPF would be useful now, but I don't have it in this build since I'm using a different build than on my Venezia. C gets contested, and because I've just seen the 2 cruisers, I know it can only be the DD, so I instantly disengage. I can't do anything about C. That has to be the carrier's job. I am gonna go see if I can go contest A instead. Carrier comes in with torpedo bombers. I don't know where all their cruisers are. And I don't really have the tools, the AA, to deal with the carrier planes, so we're gonna use our smoke just to keep myself alive. Another defensive smoke, used in a different way this time. I pop the spotter plane so I can get vision of these enemy torpedo planes, so my AA can actually do something about them. Trying to help with the Friesland, trying to get some resets on that objective, so he has to spend more time in there for my carrier to focus him. I thought one of those shells kind of looked like they went through him. But more importantly, I managed to catch a very nice target with my planes. And that is my spotter plane called the Audacious. So what I want to do now is I'm just gonna park here, I'm gonna angle against their cruisers, and I'm gonna bully this Audacious with sap until he feels like moving forward. Because I don't think my Yoshino has been spotted yet. My Yoshino hasn't shot, my Yoshino has been fairly undetected so far. So I think if I just keep harassing this guy, provided I can dodge the torpedoes and angle against the Venezia sap, as long as I keep bullying him with these 10k sap volleys, as I mentioned, it deals heavy damage if you can shoot unarmored parts of the ship. If I can bully him enough that he moves forward, I will be able to accelerate. And I do in fact force him to move forward, which is exactly what I wanted, because he's afraid of getting killed by me, and now Yoshino will be able to finish him off. I have to run away now though, because the Smolensk started spamming me, and even though I'm angled against the Venezia, he has those improved sap angles, so he will be doing a lot of damage. Still though, I accomplished my primary mission, which was get the carrier killed. Now the job is about survival. My carrier is fighting the Friesland. That's gonna, once again, as I said, that's gonna take a while, because Friesland AA is absolutely monstrous. 12.2 km concealment and speed allows me to disengage. I used my torpedoes to check that he was accelerating, so I actually shoot at his nose instead of shooting behind him. He does accelerate, but he slows down at the last moment, so I only get one citadel before he gets into cover behind the island. The problem is, however, even if you kill a carrier, it's the only class in the game that gets a free pass and can still inflict damage. And that's exactly what we're seeing happening on A right now. That carrier, just before he died, he launched a torpedo squad, and that torpedo squad is actually shredding my Yoshino. That's a permanent flooding on my Yoshino, and he will go down. So just when we thought we had clawed it back, we're back down. 1 cap to 2 caps, 2 ships against 3. At this point, I know I'm gonna have to do basically some heroics here. I still don't know how he's doing with the Friesland, but I have 2 minutes 47. I need to go contest A. That's really my job at this point. I need to go contest A and try to flip it. We're only down 80 points, so there are potential opportunities to recover this game. Dropping preemptive torps in case the Venezia pushes in between the islands instead of going the long way. He's sadly almost full HP. He is going the long way. I'm using my concealment advantage against him. I don't want to shoot yet. If I shoot now, he's going to return fire. I want to shoot at the very last moment. Friesland has managed to secure the kill. I get spotted, so I have to shoot. He also gets his shot off. I angle as much as I can because that sap does in fact hurt. Even when angled, he still chunks me for about 2k. And this is where the Smolensk is spotted by the carrier. The carrier is trying to harass him. I'm gonna see if I can catch him coming around the corner. I'm using the minimap to shoot his last known position. I get 1 hit, but not the kill that we needed. We're down 657 to 730, 1 minute 40 remaining. At this point, I can no longer focus the Smolensk because the Venezia is pushing in. I have to count on my carrier to be able to deal with him. He's done a pretty good job so far, and that Smolensk has almost no health remaining, 2k health, so he can finish him. I'm gonna have to fight a full HP Venezia in my 21k Brindisi. I don't angle enough, he hits me for 12k sap, but I get a quadruple citadel on him in return. I save my torps. At this point, I'm going for the trade. 1 minute, 10 seconds remaining. I'm patient with the AP, I angle in against the sap. I bounce some of it, enough to survive. Once again, Venezia's forward firing angles are not that good. He has to give a lot of broadside to use all his guns. So I'm patiently holding fire, and he finally gives the broadside that I need. I land 2 citadels, 4 citadels, and just before I die, I'm also getting my torps off to make sure that this will be a trade. Carrier finishes off the Smolensk, I finish off the Venezia. With 41 seconds remaining of the game, we turn it into a victory. 196,000 damage. This time, I'm gonna make sure I have the correct scoreboard so you guys know what I'm talking about. 3 torpedo hits, 9 plane shot down, 2 kills, 13 citadels this game. A very close game, and this showed a certain type of aggression in the Brindisi, namely using smokes to get objectives. I used the smoke to get that C cap. I used the smoke to get the B cap as well. And then finally I used the smoke just to avoid the planes. So mostly for the first 2 smokes were just for the team, and the last smoke was just for personal survival. None of them were utilized to deal damage. And they don't always have to be utilized to deal damage. They can just be straight up survivability tools or just straight up concealment. Team score wise, almost 3000 base XP. As a tier 9, considering the matchmaking with basically tons of tier 10s and a tier 10 carrier, I'm more than happy with this result. My Courier played well, securing those kills. If we look at the Friesland, we can see he actually fed 57 plane kills to the Friesland. Not surprising, Friesland is not an easy ship to take down with the carrier. Detailed report wise, SAP 85,000, AP 82,000. So pretty damn close when it comes to damage sources. 3 torpedoes landed, 24k damage. They don't hit that hard, but the torpedoes were pretty valuable, mostly because they secured the Venezia kill, and also they helped in securing that Montana that could have completely zoned me out from pushing the center. 1.8 million potential, 37k spotting, and a whole lot of damage received. Some really big sap volleys as well, but overall, this was a good example of just what this ship can do. Let me show you guys my recommended build and my recommended modules for this ship. Right, as usual, let me start with the modules. I actually think you should get the hull upgrade first. Even though your default range is really limited at 15.6, you still have access to the spotter plane. And in general, that should be enough to tide you along until you can get the range upgrade. The reason for the hull upgrade is not just the health benefit that you get from it, but it's more importantly that rudder shift. The rudder shift with the A hull is just dreadful. And as I mentioned, this thing has a really big citadel and there is none of that juicy spaced armor. Let me actually show you. There is none of that juicy spaced armor. Your citadel basically just sticks out in the middle of the ship. So getting improved rudder shift to be able to angle this plating is very important. Here's the forward 50mm plating that I spoke of. Note how it's basically completely waterline and you can easily punch through the top of it and still hit the citadel. So don't put too much faith into this plating. It can save your bacon, but don't count on it doing it. Consumable wise, damage con, heal, smoke in that order. Finally, spotter plane if you can afford it. Upgrade wise, turret survival, you have the same issue as the Venezia, which is your turrets are squishy and they break. Rudder survival, AA bonus, once again because the dispersion buff is so minimal for cruisers. Faster rudder shift, concealment, and faster reload on the main guns. Captain perks wise, if you got Luigi Sansonetti, use it. It's the best captain for the Italians by far. If not, same basic build, priority target, adrenaline rush, superintendent, concealment expert, expert loader, expert marksman. Actually maybe, yeah, nah, expert marksman, then jack of all trades. Then you got 4 points. I think RPF might be better, but on Brindisi, I've been experimenting with vigilance and preventive maintenance. Still, I think RPF is still the better option. I mean, the vigilance does help you because of the lack of hydro, and PM does help you with those turret issues. But ultimately, just knowing where that ship that's spotting you or that ship that's gonna mess up your smoke tends to be more important. I leave that up to you. If you don't know how to utilize RPF, you might not get the full value out of the skill, and in those cases this is a safer build, which is very straightforward. You spot torpedoes earlier, your turrets survive longer, your rudder survives longer. It's very straightforward and very simple and requires much less thought than actually utilizing RPF. So I give you guys the options to choose. Personally, I think RPF might be slightly more effective. Flag wise, once again, the 3 basic flags. Heal, speed, consumables. And then if you got some extra, you can run stuff like detonation flag like I'm running here. Anyway, that was my tier 9 commentary. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next up, we're going to be covering the Amalfi, the tier 8 Italian cruiser.